Alright, Gustavo Uribe here. Welcome to my channel. And this video, I just saw the Alex Jones video. Alex Jones returns on Joe Rogan while I was eating dinner last night. It's 4 hours long. It just came out a couple days ago, and it's got like over 5 million views already. It's pretty crazy. Uh, so I I watched the whole video, watched the last hour this morning, and it got me thinking while I was sleeping. And I saw a comment on there that really I was like, okay, I gotta make this video. And I don't even know why I make these videos, but I have to make this video, and I gotta share my thoughts with you guys, my rants. Um, so the thing, putting that on record, I'm an Alex Jones fan, right? But the thing that I kind of didn't like is that he never talked about the aliens. He was always avoiding the aliens. He didn't want to go touch the aliens, right? But on this interview, he actually talked about the aliens, and it was really cool to see his perspective on it. And I'm just gonna sum it up. He's saying that there's basically two rogue civilizations right now. NASA and this other one, I forgot what it was. These elites or this breakaway civilization, they are in communication with aliens, right? And these particular aliens, not human. That's how he's described. He's defining aliens as not human, or so you could say that they are entities or non-human consciousness. He was saying some things that got me thinking, and throughout there's different cultures and civilizations that have had contact with, you can describe them as satanic organizations. So like, you mentioned the Nazis, right? They were very into the cult. They were getting technology from these non-human entities, and you could research that. There's also the satanic cults in general. Most people who are satanic, they say, "Oh, I'm Church of Satan" or whatever. But like when you really like study satanic cults, there's a lot of weird shit that goes on. Sacrifices, incest, torture, weird shit. And then you got the Aztecs. And being Hispanic myself, there's always like this, oh, brown pride and the Aztec warrior and all this stuff. But when you really think about it, like historically, the Aztecs were very satanic. Very satanic. They would conquer other tribes around them. They would capture them, and then they would sacrifice them on top of pyramids. They would cut their hearts out and just kick them down the tubes or whatever. Take them down the stairs, and even with their game, it was like kind of like soccer, Aztec soccer. It was they would sacrifice the winners. So, and then there was this there was this one historical record when the Spanish came, and they had like this day where they sacrificed, like, I don't know, like apparently 80,000 people or something in one day. I mean, wow. Wow. So when you think about it, like, yeah, when the Spanish came and they actually pitted they got a lot of support from the other tribes to overtake the Aztecs. It's just like, well, yeah, like I think a lot of other tribes were like, man, these guys really suck. Like I don't know why we have a love affair with the Aztecs. They were like very satanic. But anyways, so to sum up, what the point of this video is that when Alex Jones is talking about communication with aliens, there's a lot of people that are like, whatever, that's ridiculous, whatever. But there's a here's here's a thing that the naysayers, in my opinion, that the problem with the naysayers is because they've never experienced anything that's been paranormal, or even if they have, they're like in denial, right? Um, there was a comment in the video of the Alex Jones videos where it talks about like this is kind of similar to Muslim culture or Muslim religion or Muslim doctrine or whatever, or Islamic, where they get in touch with these with the Jinn and or something like that, and they get manipulated, and then they start doing all this like war mongering type stuff. And I'll try to copy and paste the comment of what I found in my description so you could read it for yourself. So, uh, so here's where I'm coming from. I'm not a religious person, but when I was in college going to UCSB, I had some shit that happened to me that changed my perspective about this alien stuff, right? I remember I was sleeping on the couch, and it was like around night, whatever. And anyways, I fell asleep on the couch, and all of a sudden I felt like awake, like with this metallic buzzing in my head, like like that, a very painful, sharp pain. It's like that, and I felt like I wasn't alone in the room, like there was a negative presence in the room. That scared the shit out of me, okay? And it happened another time, maybe at least two times that I can remember. So after that, I was just like, oh my god, what the hell happened to me? I know I'm not crazy, this is really weird. Because I could literally like feel a presence in the room, and I was like, oh shit. And I would feel kind of paralyzed, and then that shit would happen, right? So, after that, I started reading more into like alien abductions and stuff. And it turns out that there's a lot of research out there, a lot of people with alien abduction type stories. There's a lot of research into that, a lot. So we can't if you're a naysayer, there's a bunch of books about it. There's a bunch of books about cow mutilations. There's a bunch of books about sightings and Roswell and all that stuff. So it's not like this hasn't been researched. Okay, this is serious stuff. Okay, don't laugh at it, because if that shit happens to you, it's gonna change your mind, right? So what happened was, as I started researching this stuff, I went to Cal Arts to my master's. And I think I was coming back to visit my mom on a break. I think that's when it was. I wrote about this, and I'll put the link in the description. But during this time, I was actually researching more, like I said, aliens and stuff, and I was also researching the occult stuff, demonology, because I wanted to learn. I wanted to find out. I was looking for answers of like what the hell happened to me and what's going on here. I Now this is where it gets kind of crazy, because this is kind of how I connected with what Alex Jones was saying. He was saying that these people would take a lot of drugs, or they would stop their heart beating, and by doing that, they would put themselves like in a death state or whatever, and come like stop their heart beating for 4 seconds or something like that. I don't really understand the details, but it was so like these people can get more into this this trance or whatever, and be able to talk to these non-human entities, and then get information, right? And Alex Jones was saying, if it's a good entity, it's not gonna want to like talk to you, because they don't want to mess with you, right? But if it's a bad entity, they have more of a motive to mess with you and get something out of it, right? But you have to let it in. You have to let it in, right? So this is what my experience is, and I know this is a long rant, but this is important to me, and I wanted to put that out there for all the watchers, viewers out there, is that I was researching this shit, this occult stuff and alien stuff, and I actually, there was one night I remember I was in the kitchen. And I was like, you know what? I'm ready to learn. I'm ready to have an experience. See what happens. We'll see what happens. And I invited something in. A couple days later, I was sleeping. Sure enough, it was around 3 o'clock, and I was on the floor, and I was not on drugs or not drunk or whatever. I was laying on the floor because I was, staying with my mom, and I was sleeping in the living room, and all of a sudden I feel this like that. Like I felt like I was lifted from the floor. I came back down the living room, and everything was fuzzy, everything was blurry, and my heart was like bum 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 bum. And so, anyways, I saw this little green man, and he was kind of blurry like this, and he had yellow eyes, and he was short, and I don't think he had a mouth. And then, so anyways, I was really scared, and I was just like, like that, right? And then I kind of was backing away, and then I finally put my hands down on the floor, and I was like, all right, I'm just, excuse me. And it was and I was like, excuse me, I'm just really scared. And then I remember I shook his hand, right? And then I remember myself shaking his hand. And I was like, oh, where do you come from? I want, maybe we could learn from each other or whatever. And then he looked at me, and I was like, where do you come from? And he was just like, he just like looked up or something like that. And I was like, where do you, I forgot what else I asked him. I said, what's your name? And he didn't say anything, right? I heard it in my head. It was like, Djinn, like that, Djinn, like that. And then I was like, oh, okay, well, when will you be back? And then he was like, oh, when they let me, in my head, like that. And I was like, oh, well, I got really scared, but give me a signal next time or something. And then next thing I remember, I kneeled down, and I was like, like I was sleeping here. Then the little dude was here, and I was here, right? Then next thing I know, I was here, and I was looking down, and I was kneeling down, and there was this yellow box, but the top was clear. And then I remember kneeling down, and I put my fingers in this box, and I felt like something go into my fingers. Next thing I know, I was like, and I slammed back down. I was like this. I was like, so I freaked the hell out. And I ran into my mom's bedroom. I was like, Mom, what the fuck? Something just happened to me. It was really crazy. Anyway, so that was an experience, and I had other weird experiences happen to me around that time, but that one was the one that was like, okay, what the fuck? Like, that one was like, okay, that was the cream of the crop right there, folks. And I remember I was talking to my friend, and he was like, what'd you say his name was? And I was like, Djinn. And he's like, oh, dude, that's Djinn. That's like from, like Aladdin or something, Genie. And I was like, what? He's like, yeah, dude, like, Islamic culture, that's like, they're like demons or something. And I was like, no way. So I looked it up, and sure enough, in Wikipedia, is Djinn, the Djinn. And apparently they're like a interdimensional entities that have interacted with humans throughout the human experience, right? So I don't know what to tell you guys, but that's what I experienced. I haven't seen them again. I still like research aliens and occult stuff from time to time, but I learned that, well, as of right now in my life, like I'm just trying to keep it positive, and I'm not trying to invite any shit into my life like that anymore. But anyways, that's my story. So going back to this Alex Jones thing is that my personal or my opinion on it is that um, as human beings we have like a spectrum, and he Alex Jones talked about this, but I'm gonna put my spin on it. We have a spectrum, right? Like you could hear from 20 hertz to 20,000 hertz. Like if you study music production or whatever. Visual, you have like you can see from what like a visual band. What is it? Red to ultraviolet, something like that, on the white color spectrum. um, and you could, yeah. So your senses, like they're all like frequency bands, right? And even your thoughts have frequencies and stuff. So my point is that if something was outside of your frequency, you wouldn't technically be able to detect it with your five senses, right? That being said, when people say they were, let's say people are abducted by aliens, right? And then you say, "Oh, I don't believe you. Like they're just gonna walk into your house and just drag you out of the house." Well, let's just think about this. Like if there was an entity, whether it's from a different planet or it's from an interdimension or different, if they're able to go above and below our frequency detection, who's to say that they can't just, like, let's say they're already here, right? Let's say they can just they're just like they're here right here, right? Like it's hard to explain, but let's say like I'm in my room recording this video. Who's to say there's not an entity or a ghost that's on a different frequency spectrum that's like right there? That's right there. That's right there. Who's to say, right? And I think most people, um, well, yeah, they wouldn't be detected. But when you have these types of experience, usually when you talk to these alien abductees or whatever, there's a presence that you could sense. And usually when the people get abducted, they say they get paralyzed. So just think about that. And there's lights that happen. So let's say these dudes, they're on a different frequency spectrum, and they can just walk through the door, or they can just appear. Who's to say that they don't have the technology to do that, or just show up whenever they want. They shine a light, and then they can take you, and then they could shift your frequencies or whatever. So then you could be transported or teleported into whatever it is, their spaceship or whatever, because they know how to alter your frequency spectrums or whatever. I mean, I don't know exactly how they do it, but I know that we can only see a certain amount of things. So to say that something's not above or below those frequencies and they don't exist just because we can't see them doesn't mean that they don't exist. Unfortunately, I wish that we could say, oh well, science, and it's not scientifically proven. It's not scientific. It's like, well, if we gotta have the tools to be able to detect these things, right? Like you can't just say like, oh, just because we can't see it, just because we can't hear it, whatever, that they don't exist. Maybe we can get some type more technologies or understand it more so we could figure it out. But that's going on a different path. My point is that if there are things that are in different frequency spectrums, when you take drugs or when something happens or blah 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 blah, and you're able to what Alex Jones was saying was that you have like a filter, right? If you're taking crazy ass drugs, hallucinogens, and that filter goes away or changes, then you can see these things a lot more easily. So I'm gonna wrap up this video, and I hope that my goal of this video is like, maybe if you have an experience that is pretty crazy, or you have some video links that you want to share in the comments, please do. If you're a skeptic and you don't believe in this shit, then that's fine. You could write some, skeptic stuff, but let's keep it classy on this one, on this video, because when you have an experience where you can't explain to people, if you read some of these alien abduction cases, it's very scary and it's very traumatic. And I don't think that anybody should just look down upon it. You should take it seriously, see if they're telling, see, how much evidence do they have, or what kind of things can they remember or whatever. But I wouldn't put them all into a crazy box, is what I'm trying to say. Okay, well, thanks for watching this video, and if you like the content, subscribe and tell me what other types of videos that you think that I should look into or whatever, and I'll keep making videos depending on the feedback I get, to keep this growing. Okay, all right, cool, bye.